Happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome to another episode of China Update, where I provide you with the most up-to-date political, economic, and geostrategic analysis on the world's #2 economy. My name is Tony. Let's jump in. And we begin as we usually do with the economy. We touched on this a little yesterday, but we need to unpack it a bit more now. China experienced a massive outflow from its financial markets last month, with $45.7 billion in net funds wired overseas for securities investments, according to the State Administration of Foreign Exchange. This is the biggest outflow on record and reflects growing concerns as the threat of high US tariffs looms, posing challenges for the world's second largest economy. The contribution of the weakening yuan, declining local stocks, and a significant interest rate gap with the US is amplifying these outflows. President-elect Donald Trump pledged to impose 60% tariffs on Chinese goods, which has further dampened investor sentiment, sparking fears of a trade turndown. Chinese stocks have lost momentum since October, while yields on sovereign bonds remain less attractive compared to US treasuries. In response, China's leadership has pledged moderately loose monetary policies for 2025, signaling possible rate cuts and increased public spending to revive growth. Despite these efforts, foreign holdings of Chinese bonds have fallen to their lowest levels since September 2023, reflecting sustained pressure on China's financial markets. Meanwhile, and on this theme of moderately loose monetary policies for 2025, UK-based Reuters, in an exclusive published yesterday, reports that, as we have anticipated for a few weeks now, PRC leaders agreed last week to raise the budget deficit to 4% of gross domestic product next year, its highest levels on record, while maintaining an economic growth rate of around 5%. Citing two unnamed sources, the outlet says the new deficit plan compares with an initial target of 3% of GDP for 2024 and is in line with a more proactive fiscal policy outlined by leading officials after December's Politburo meeting and last week's Central Economic Work Conference, where the targets were agreed but not officially announced. The additional 1 percentage point of GDP in spending amounts to about 1.3 trillion yuan, $180 billion. More stimulus will be funded through issuing off-budget special bonds, said the two sources. The stronger fiscal impulse planned for the next year forms part of China's preparations to counter the impact of an expected increase in US tariffs as Donald Trump re-enters the White House in January. China's economy has stuttered this year due to a severe property crisis, high local government debt, and weak consumer demand. Exports, one of the few bright spots, could soon face US tariffs in excess of 60%. As we just covered. Of course, none of this should be surprising. The language of the Central Economic Work Conference readout made clear the deficit would expand, expressing, quote, "The fiscal deficit ratio should be increased to ensure fiscal policy maintains and strengthens its effectiveness. Fiscal spending should be increased and strengthened support for key areas," end quote. However, as US economist Thomas Sowell has written, there are seldom solutions, only trade-offs. China's trade-off will be another year of surging debt and further pressure on local government balance sheets. To once again examine what Peking University Professor of Finance Michael Pettis expressed on Monday, citing new official data, quote, "The country's debt burden continues to rise rapidly. By the end of November, the outstanding amount of aggregate financing was 405.6 trillion RMB, or approximately 309% of China's annual GDP. At the end of last year, it amounted to 300% of China's GDP. In pre-COVID years, it generally required 3 to 4 units of debt to generate each unit of GDP growth. This year and last year, it is taking more than 6 units of debt, which suggests that growth in China's economy is more reliant than ever on debt," end quote. With the deficit level moving from 3 to 4% of GDP, this will only accelerate. Next up, China has tripled the amount of time visitors can spend in the country without a visa in yet another move to entice more foreign tourists. Yesterday, the Chinese State Administration of Immigration announced the country will expand its free visa layover period to 240 hours, 10 days, across the board. Previously, there were 2 tiers, allowing eligible travelers to visit for 72 hours, 3 days, or 144 hours, 6 days, depending on the destination. 21 ports of entry and exit have been added for visa-free transit for individuals. Foreign nationals entering China through the visa-free transit policy can make cross-province travels within the allowed area as well. Over the last year or so, Beijing has made quite the effort to open up to global visitors. Why? One reason is that tourism revenue is good for a sick economy. Another reason, however, seems to be that leadership believe tourists during short trips to major cities can be good for China's image, with first impressions normally being dominated by the exotic sights, flavors, people, food, and lights. As PRC Foreign Ministry spokesperson Lin Jian expressed today, quote, "We welcome foreign friends to add China to their travel bucket list and experience China's time-honored history by visiting heritage sites such as the Great Wall, feast their eyes on natural wonders such as the glinting West Lake, discover application of cutting-edge technologies, and feel the spirit of humanity embodied in winter dining delights." End quote. It is a good thing that more people can come and see the country, the good, the bad, and the ugly, making an exotic world just another country which can be better understood, studied, and criticized. But on this theme of travel, however, today Chinese financial media outlet Caixin reports that only 7 European carriers remain on China-Europe routes, down from 14 in 2019. European carriers have been battered by higher operating costs due to Russia closing its airspace to them, weaker demand from travel between China and Europe, and fierce competition from Chinese airlines, who, unlike their European counterparts, can fly over Russian territory. Between November 27th and December 3rd, there were 855 flights between China and Europe, a 21.6% year-on-year increase, according to aviation data site DAST. Over 84% of these flights were operated by Chinese carriers, compared to about 60% in 2019. Next up, one of the more shocking developments we have seen in these last few years of structural crises and economic malaise has been the emergence of a local practice whereby cash-strapped local governments essentially kidnap and extort money from local business people. And this is not exaggerated propaganda, nor simple stories of isolated incidents. Yesterday, Tuesday, in a State Council study session, Premier Li Qiang reiterated concerns about the extortion of enterprises by local governments to generate revenue and announced a special campaign to deal with these issues. According to the readout of the meeting, quote, "We must strengthen oversight of law enforcement, pay attention to issues such as abnormal increases in revenue from fines and confiscations, extensive cross-regional enforcement, and maximum fines frequently imposed. We should examine and verify related enforcement actions and promptly correct any issues found. We should also strengthen the application of information technology to enhance the effectiveness of enforcement supervision." End quote. As one senior official warned in a subsequently censored article online a few months ago, if this issue is not resolved, it threatens to gravely undermine the entire economic system in many of these localities. Next up, we have one more development to cover, but just quickly, I have a piece of housekeeping I wanted to cover. Some of you may have noticed that members, those are people who sign up to give financial contributions to the channel on YouTube, have a new icon next to their name. I'm glad that I could roll these out this week. There are 5 of these icons. There is a dumpling for new members. Members who have been here for a few months will then be upgraded to an ancient Chinese coin. The next level, for those who have been supporting the channel for about a year, will be an icon of the Pearl Tower in Pudong in Shanghai. For those who have been supporting the channel for 2 years, you will have a traditional Chinese building inspired by a place I used to live near in Beijing. And for those who have been supporting for 3 years as members, you'll have the highest level icon, which will be a giant panda. I hope you enjoy this little touch that makes the interaction of the community here just that little bit more unique. Now, one last thing, if you're enjoying today's episode of China Update, don't forget to hit the like button. Liking, sharing, and subscribing is a huge help for the channel. It is one of the only ways in which the channel can grow. It's just a few clicks of the mouse, but it's a tremendous help for me, and I deeply appreciate it. And for those who want to go the extra mile and keep China Update financially sustainable, or if you'd like to become a member and be able to use these new icons, or if you would like to show your appreciation by giving the channel a gift during this holiday season, Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee links are in the description below, or there is the membership option within YouTube itself. Thank you so much, everybody, for the ongoing support. The US is preparing to introduce new AI chip export restrictions, granting technology giants like Google and Microsoft the authority to control global access to these critical technologies. According to the US-based Reuters and US-based Wall Street Journal, the new policy aims to prevent countries such as China from accessing advanced AI chips through cloud services hosted abroad. Under the proposed regulations, Google, Microsoft, and other major cloud providers will be required to report key data to the US government and block access to AI chips for sanctioned entities. This effort seeks to close potential backdoor avenues for China to circumvent existing export control by leveraging international cloud computing facilities. These new restrictions follow intense debate between the US government and the semiconductor industry. While officials stress national security concerns, citing risks such as AI-guided autonomous drones and cyber attacks, industry leaders have pushed back, seeking to protect lucrative sales to China, but also perhaps due to genuine concern of government control over these capabilities. The New York Times revealed troubling instances where some Bureau of Industry and Security (BIS) employees allegedly leaked details of impending sanctions to US companies, enabling Chinese firms to stockpile restricted products ahead of controls. Concerns about Beijing's technological ambitions have heightened scrutiny. Former officials and analysts argue that China views semiconductor technology as strategically vital. Indeed, we don't have to ask any of these analysts. Beijing, through many statements, has said just that. As one expert noted, China's drive for semiconductor independence will not be deterred by temporary restrictions or diplomatic overtures. The forthcoming rules, known as the Export Controls Framework for AI Diffusion, represent a significant escalation in the US effort to curb China's AI advancements. Meanwhile, on the other side of the battlefield, according to a new report by defense intelligence firm Govini, China's recent export ban on critical minerals, including antimony, gallium, and germanium, is poised to significantly impact the US military, disrupting over 1,000 weapons production systems. The report says the ban could hinder the production of more than 20,000 individual components relied upon by the Pentagon and the US Coast Guard. These critical minerals play a vital role in a wide range of defense technologies. Antimony is crucial for bullets and cables, gallium for radar and communication systems, and germanium for night vision goggles and nuclear weapons. The Govini analysts revealed that 6,335 parts depend on antimony, 11,351 require gallium, and 12,777 rely on germanium. The ban's impact is expected to be felt across all branches of the US military, potentially hampering operational readiness and technological advancement. China's move underscores the leverage in the global critical mineral market. By limiting access to these essential resources, Beijing can exert pressure on US defense and technological sectors. In response, the US government is taking steps to reduce reliance on Chinese supply chains, a process that was already in place but is likely now being accelerated. The Department of Energy recently approved a $755 million conditional loan to Novonex for constructing a large-scale synthetic graphite facility in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Graphite, essentially for electric vehicle batteries, is another mineral dominated by China, which controls over 95% of global supply. Chris Burns, Novonex's CEO and a former Tesla engineer, highlighted the urgency of diversifying supply chains to safeguard national security and economic interests. As geopolitical tensions rise, the race to secure alternative sources of critical minerals becomes ever more pressing for the US military and industries alike. Okay, that is today's episode of China Update. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Have a good Wednesday, and I will see you all tomorrow.